I took my dog in for an ultrasound, and the doctor confirmed she was pregnant. But then this fetus, the doctor said, frowning, why does it look human? Strawberry lay on the exam table dead silent. Her black and white fur was sleek, oily and expensive looking. Unlike other mutts that lose their minds at the vet, Strawberry was different. She was pinned down, but she didn't struggle. It was like she knew we were trying to fix whatever was wrong with her. Inside, we didn't even strap her down. Two nurses, cute girls and scrubs, hold her limbs on either side. Strawberry just lay there, eyes wide. She's an Alaskan Malamute, peach face variety, a year and a half old. A big girl, weighing in at nearly 90 pounds, almost as heavy as I am. When she stands on her hind legs, she's practically eye to eye with me. Being a single woman living in the city, walking Strawberry at night is better than carrying pepper spray. Nobody messes with a beast that size. 2 days prior, he had bolted out the door. I searched everywhere, frantic, thinking some scumbag dog thief had snatched her for a meat market. Then just as I was losing hope, Strawberry came back. But here's the weird part. After being lost on the streets for 2 days, she was spotless, too clean. Her fur wasn't matted. There wasn't a speck of mud on her. She was fluffy, soft, and smelled like she'd been groomed. Initially, I didn't clock anything wrong. She acted healthy, ate normally. But a month later, her belly started swelling like a balloon. She got lethargic, spent all day sprawled on the floor, and stopped eating. I thought she was sick, so I dragged her to the nearest vet clinic. The doctor probed her stomach and frowned. She might be knocked up. I let out a breath. Okay, not cancer. Good. Then the rage hit me. My precious baby got defiled by some random street mutt. Strawberry rarely went out. Her only friend was a male golden retriever owned by a neighbor. But we kept them on tight leashes. I strictly cockblocked them. I swear on my life Strawberry and that golden were just friends. The only explanation was those missing 2 days. She must have been running wild, getting banged by some stray mongrel or worse, gangbanged. Thinking about my poor daughter, getting taken advantage of in some alleyway, made me want to cry. Doc, is she really pregnant? I asked, stroking her depressed-looking head. Let's do an ultrasound, the doctor said. The nurses lifted her onto the table. I whispered, it's okay. Mama's here. Don't move. While the doctor prepped the gel, I found myself bargaining with God. Please let it be another Malamute or at least a husky. Hell, I'll take an ugly mix over a disease. Confirmed she's pregnant, the doctor said, staring at the grainy black and white monitor. I knew it. That's odd, the doctor muttered. Odd how my stomach tightened. This fetus. The doctor hesitated, sliding the wand across Strawberry's shaved belly, eyes glued to the screen. Why does it look like a human? Excuse me. I froze, leaning in. Look. He turned the screen towards me. Doesn't that look like a human fetus to you? On the screen amidst the static was a shadow. A head, a torso, for limbs curled up in the fetal position. It was undeniably humanoid. I couldn't speak. First time seeing this. The doctor laughed nervously. Dogs can't carry humans. Genetic impossibility, right? Biology 101. Ultrasounds can be tricky. He waved it off. Shadows and angles. It's just a coincidence dogs have heads and limbs, too. Maybe it's just the position. The nurses nodded in agreement. I exhaled. Of course. Humans and dogs have reproductive isolation. Even in the sickest scenario, where some pervert dude raped my dog, she couldn't get pregnant. It's impossible to spawn a dog-man hybrid. Ha ha ha. What was I worried about? I should be worried about her birthing a litter of ugly poodle mixes. Whatever. I'd give them away. Strawberry was still my girl. I took Strawberry home and treated her like a queen. Her belly kept growing. Occasionally she'd heave and vomit. Morning sickness. I called the vet. Is this normal? Yeah. Mammals get morning sickness. Totally normal. I comforted her, rubbing her head. It's tough work, baby. To keep her spirits up, I started driving her to a larger park, further away from my cramped apartment complex. Fresh air, open space. One afternoon at the park, a guy walked up to me, tall, clean-cut, good-looking, but with cold eyes. That's my dog, he said. His voice was sharp, commanding. Give her back. He had single eyelids, pale skin, wearing a Nike jacket and carrying a backpack. His sneakers were limited editions, easily a grand. This kid wasn't poor. He looked young, maybe 25 tops, probably a student at the university nearby. Buddy, this is my dog. I gripped the leash tighter. He paused, looking suspicious. Yours? Yes. You've got the wrong dog. He stared at Strawberry, analyzing her body like she was a lab specimen. I don't make mistakes. I know her body. That's my dog. Listen here, asshole. I snapped. This is Strawberry. I've raised her for a year and a half. He went silent, then bent down to touch her. Strawberry flinched violently, hiding behind my legs, baring her teeth. A low guttural growl vibrated in her throat, while she looked at him with pure terror. She hated him. Then it clicked. The 2 missing days, the clean fur. Wait, I said. She went missing a while back. For 2 days. Did you find her? After some back and forth, he admitted it. I found her wandering, he said, feigning regret. Thought she was a stray. I took her home, fed her, then she ran away again. Misunderstanding cleared, maybe, but he kept staring at her belly with a creepy, obsessive hunger. My dog came back pregnant. I blurted out, testing him. Do you have a dog? What breed? I wanted to know who the hell the father was. The guy's face twitched. He looked genuinely panicked. She's pregnant? Yes. He looked like he'd seen a ghost, but quickly masked it. I don't have a dog. She probably got knocked up by a stray when she ran out. He wouldn't give me his name and left in a hurry. I thought he was just an awkward, rich college kid who tried to be a good Samaritan. I had no idea how wrong I was. 3 months passed. A dog pregnancy usually lasts about 2 months. 63 days. Strawberry was overdue. Massive. I dragged her back to the vet. The doctor was baffled. He fired up the ultrasound again. What? Perfectly weird. The doctor mumbled. I looked at the screen. There was again a curled-up infant. It looked exactly like a tiny human baby. Doc. Seriously, I said, my voice shaking. That looks like a person. The doctor shifted the probe to her lower abdomen. The angle changed. Head looked a bit pointier now. Less human, more snouty. Dogs have a bicornuate uterus, he explained, tapping the screen. From this angle, maybe not a human. A human head shouldn't look like that. And why only one, I asked. Don't dogs have litters? Why is she only carrying one? Singletons happen, he shrugged. Rare, but it happens. Look, if you're worried, we can do a C-section and abort it. But it's risky and expensive. Couple $1,000? Thousands? I shook my head. I was living paycheck to paycheck. I could barely afford myself and premium dog food. Just wait for labor, the doctor advised. If the puppy is deformed, we deal with it then. So we waited. Another month passed. 4 months total. That's double a normal dog pregnancy. Summer hit. My mom came to visit me for a month. While I slaved away at my 9 to 5, she watched Strawberry. I installed a webcam in the living room, pointing directly at the dog bed. Strawberry was huge, lethargic. A beached whale on the floor. Late June, I checked the cam feed from my office. Strawberry was thrashing in her bed, letting out blood-curdling screams. Panicked, called Mom. Go home now. Mom dropped her groceries and sprinted back. Before we could figure out how to transport a 100-pound pregnant dog to the hospital, Strawberry let out one final agonizing shriek. Something red and wet slid out of her. She gave birth. I yelled at my screen standing up in my cubicle. Finally, after months of anxiety. What is that? My mom's scream tore through the phone speaker. It wasn't a happy scream. It was pure terror. Mom? Mom, answer me. The line was dead. On my screen, the feed had frozen, a pixelated nightmare of my mother's back and a pool of dark fluid expanding across the hardwood. I didn't bother shutting down my computer. I grabbed my keys and ran. The drive home usually took 30 minutes. I made it in 12. Every red light was a suggestion. Every honk from another car was background noise to the thumping of my own heart. I kept seeing the guy's face, the cold, single-eyelid student in the Nike jacket. I don't make mistakes, he had said. When I burst through the door of my apartment, the smell hit me first. It wasn't just the metallic tang of blood. It was something chemical, sulfurous and sweet, like rotting orchids. Mom? She was sitting in the corner of the living room, knees pulled to her chest, shaking. In the center of the room, on the expensive orthopedic dog bed, lay Strawberry. She was still. Too still. I dropped to my knees beside her. Her eyes were open, glassy and fixed on the ceiling. Her tongue lolled out, pale gray. I touched her flank. Cold. She didn't make it, my mom whispered. Her voice sounded brittle, like it would snap if I breathed on it too hard. It tore her, Jen. It was too big. Tears blurred my vision, hot and stinging. I buried my face in Strawberry's thick, soft fur. My beautiful, dumb, loyal girl. My protector. Gone. Where is it? I asked, my voice muffled by fur. I locked it in the bathroom, Mom said. She pointed a trembling finger. Jen, don't open that door. Call the police. Call animal control. Just don't. What is it? A deformed puppy? It's not a puppy. I stood up, wiping my eyes. Rage was beginning to boil over the grief. I walked to the bathroom door. I could hear something inside. It wasn't whining. It was a low, gurgling sound.
Vet.
And the scratching, it didn't sound like claws against the tile. It sounded like fingernails. I turned the knob. Yen, no. I pushed the door open. The creature was huddled in the bathtub. It was covered in afterbirth and blood, but I could see the skin. It was pale, pinkish white, and utterly hairless. It was curled into a ball, its spine ridged with knobs of bone that protruded too sharply. It heard me and lifted its head. I slammed my hand over my mouth to stifle a scream. It had a muzzle, but it was short, pushed in like a pug's, but fleshier. The nose was a flat human button, but the eyes were unmistakably human, iris and pupil, white sclera, framed by pale lashes. They were blue. It looked at me with a terrifying intelligence. It tried to stand, its limbs confused. The back legs were hocked like a dog's, but the front limbs ended in long, spindly fingers with thick, black nails. It opened its mouth and let out a sound that froze my blood. It wasn't a bark.
It was a cry.
A sobbing, human cry.
Va, ma.
It wasn't speaking English. It was mimicking the sound my mother had made. But the tone, it sounded like a confused child. Oh God, I whispered, backing away. Oh my God. We wrapped Strawberry in a blanket. I couldn't bear to look at the bathtub, but we couldn't leave the thing there. We have to take it to the vet, I said, my hands shaking as I washed the blood off them in the kitchen sink. You can't take that thing out in public, Mom hissed. She was packing a bag. Jen, look at it. If people see that, they'll lock you up. They'll think you did something sick. I didn't do anything. That guy, the student, he did this. He stole her. Ding dong.
The doorbell rang.
We both froze. Did you call the police? I whispered.
No.
I moved to the peephole. The fisheye lens distorted the hallway, but I recognized the jacket.
Nike.
Limited edition. It was him, the college kid. And he wasn't alone. Standing behind him were two men in dark gray jumpsuits, holding catch poles and a heavy-looking travel crate. Jennifer, the kid said through the door. His voice was calm, muffled by the wood. Open the door. We're here for the asset. I backed away. Mom, go to the fire escape.
Now.
What? Go. I shoved her toward the bedroom window. Jennifer, the voice came again, sharper this time. We know she gave birth. The telemetry from the implant stopped, which means the host is deceased. We just want the offspring. Implant. I grabbed a kitchen knife, the big chef's knife I used to chop vegetables for Strawberry. I called the cops. I screamed at the door. No, you didn't, he replied. Kick it. The door didn't just open. It exploded inward. The wood splintered around the lock as a heavy boot smashed through. I scrambled back, knocking over a chair. The two men in jumpsuits rushed in. They ignored me completely, heading straight for the bathroom as if they knew exactly where the creature was. Hey! I swung the knife, wildly. One of the men turned, grabbed my wrist with a speed that was almost mechanical, and twisted. The knife clattered to the floor. He shoved me hard, sending me crashing into the sofa. Secure the hybrid, the college kid Julian ordered. He stepped into my apartment, stepping over the debris with his expensive sneakers. He looked at Strawberry's body wrapped in the blanket. He didn't look sad. He looked annoyed. Waste of a good chassis, he muttered. From the bathroom, a high-pitched scream erupted. It sounded like a toddler being murdered.
No.
I screamed. I tried to get up, but Julian pushed me back down with a single hand on my shoulder. His grip was shockingly strong. Stay down, Jennifer. You're irrelevant to this. What did you do to my dog? I spat at him. He looked at me, his cold eyes devoid of empathy. We improved her.
Or tried to.
Interspecies chimerism is tricky. The rejection rate is high, but the gestational period was fascinatingly extended. For months. Impressive. The men came out of the bathroom. One of them was bleeding from a bite on his forearm. They had the creature, the thing, shoved into the crate. It was thrashing against the bars, wailing.
Ma. Ma.
The sounds were getting clearer. It speaks. I whispered. Mimicry, Julian noted, checking his watch. Parrot-level intelligence, supposedly. Though the vocal cords are a custom splice. Let's move. They were leaving. They were taking the evidence. They were taking the thing that killed my dog. Wait, I said. Julian paused at the shattered door. Who are you? He smirked. Just a student. Biology 101, remember? They vanished into the hallway. I sat there for 10 seconds, listening to the wailing fade down the stairwell. Then, the adrenaline shifted. I wasn't scared anymore. I was a single woman living in the city who had just lost the only thing she loved. I stood up. I grabbed my car keys. I grabbed the pepper spray I used to carry before I had Strawberry.
Yen?
My mom peeked out from the bedroom. Stay here, Mom. Lock yourself in the bedroom. Where are you going? To get my dog back. I didn't follow them immediately. I knew I couldn't take 3 men in a fight. But I remembered the direction Julian had walked 2 months ago at the park, toward university. I drove to the campus. It was summer, so the grounds were mostly empty. I parked illegally and started walking, looking for a building that looked like it housed monsters. It wasn't hard to find. The life sciences building was old brick, but attached to it was a modern, glass and steel monstrosity labeled Helix Dynamics, Private Research Wing. I skirted the perimeter. There was a loading dock around the back. A black van was idling there. I crouched behind a dumpster, heart hammering. The 2 men in jumpsuits were unloading the crate. Julian was standing by the van, talking on a cell phone. Vital signs are strong. Aggressive behavior. Yes, the host died. No, the owner is a civilian. Nobody understood. He hung up and followed the crate inside. The metal door slammed shut. I waited 5 minutes, then ran to the door.
Locked.
Obviously. I looked around. There was a card reader. I didn't have a card. But I had rage, and I had a heavy rock I found in the landscaping. I didn't smash the reader. I smashed the window of the van. The alarm blared. I dove into the bushes. A security guard burst out of the loading dock door. Hey, who's there? As he ran toward the van, I sprinted out from the bushes and slipped through the closing door before it clicked shut. I was inside. The hallway smelled like antiseptic and ozone. I followed the signs for sublevel 2. The elevator required a badge, so I took the stairs. Down into the cool, recycled air of the basement. When I opened the door to sublevel 2, I heard the screaming. It wasn't just the creature from my bathtub. It was a chorus. I walked down the corridor, peering through the small windows of the lab doors. Room 201. Beagles. But their heads were too large, their eyes bulging. Room 202. Pigs. With human hands growing out of their backs. I suppressed the urge to vomit. This wasn't a university project. This was a house of horrors. I reached the end of the hall. Specimen isolation. Through the glass, I saw Julian. He was wearing a lab coat now. The creature, my grandpuppy, was strapped to a steel table. Julian was holding a syringe. Sedative, he said to an assistant. Then we harvest the liver. We need to see if the human tissue integrated correctly. Harvest. They were going to kill it. Strawberry died for this thing. If they killed it, she died for nothing. I didn't have a plan. I just kicked the door open. Hey, I shouted. Julian spun around. How did you? I didn't let him finish. I sprayed the pepper spray directly into his eyes. He screamed and dropped the syringe, clutching his face. The assistant froze, looking at me with wide eyes. Unstrap him, I ordered, holding the pepper spray like a gun.
Now.
You're making a mistake, the assistant stammered. Do it. She undid the buckles. The creature didn't attack. It scrambled off the table, slipped on the linoleum, and scuttled behind my legs. It was shivering. It pressed its hairless, warm body against my calves. Come on, I said to it. I grabbed a scalpel from a tray, just in case, and backed out of the room. Julian was on the floor, cursing. Run, I told the creature. And surprisingly, it did. It ran on all fours, clumsy but fast, galloping like a puppy. We hit the stairwell. The alarm was still blaring from the parking lot, masking our escape. We burst out of the side exit and into the night. My car was gone, towed probably. We have to walk, I told the thing. It looked up at me. In the moonlight, it looked less like a monster and more like a sad, naked old man. Ma, it gurgled. I'm not your ma, I said, my voice cracking. But I'm all you've got. We holed up in a motel 630 miles out of the city. I paid cash. I named him Ghost. Because he was pale, and because he shouldn't exist. Over the next week, the horror of his existence was replaced by a strange, heartbreaking domesticity. Ghost grew fast.
Terrifyingly fast.
In 3 days, he went from the size of a newborn to the size of a toddler. By the end of the week, he was the size of a 10-year-old boy. He walked on his hind legs now, though he hunched over. He had fur patches growing on his shoulders and back, black and white, like strawberry. But his face remained hairless, human, and expressive. He was smart. Too smart. Hungry, he said on the 4th day. Not mimicking. Understanding. I gave him dog food. He threw it up. I gave him a hamburger. He devoured it. Who are you? I asked him one night. He was sitting on the other bed, watching TV. He loved cartoons. Ghost, he said, pointing to himself. He had learned his name. What are you? He looked at his hands, those long, clawed fingers.
Then he looked at me.
Wrong, he said softly. Ghost is wrong. It broke my heart. I bought a burner phone and searched for Helix Dynamics. It was a shell company. But I found a forum, a dark web thread about chimeric organ farming. Rich people needed organs. Pigs were okay, but the rejection rate was high. Dogs, specifically large breeds like Malamutes, had a physiology that, with enough genetic tinkering, could support humanized organs. They weren't making dogmen for fun. They were making spare parts factories. Strawberry was just an incubator for a liver or a heart destined for some billionaire. I looked at Ghost. He wasn't a monster. He was a product. We have to go public, I told him. We have to show the world what they did. Ghost tilted his head, exactly the way Strawberry used to. We didn't get to go public. They found us. I woke up to the sound of the motel door lock clicking. Ghost was already awake. He was standing by the door, a low growl vibrating in his chest. He was big now, standing 5'5", lean and muscular, with a mouth full of razor-sharp teeth that didn't fit his human jaw. The door burst open. It wasn't the college kid this time. It was a tactical team. For men with armor and rifles. Target acquired, one shouted. Ghost didn't hesitate. He launched himself. The violence was a blur. Ghost moved with the agility of a wolf, but struck with the leverage of a primate. He swiped the first man's helmet off and sank his teeth into the Kevlar vest, shaking his head violently. Don't shoot the asset, someone yelled. That was their mistake. They tried to use tasers. Ghost took the voltage and roared. He threw one man through the window. Jen, run, he screamed. His voice was guttural, distorted, but clear. I grabbed my bag and scrambled out the broken window. Ghost, come on. He followed me, bleeding from a dozen cuts. We ran into the woods behind the motel. We ran for hours. Ghost was slowing down. His rapid growth came with a price. His joints were swollen, his breathing ragged. We reached an old logging road as the sun began to rise. Stop, Ghost gasped. He collapsed onto the dirt. We have to keep going, I pleaded, kneeling beside him. No, he wheezed. He looked at his hands. They were trembling. Body failing. What? Engineered expiration, he said. He tapped his chest. Heart, too fast. I realized then. They didn't just design him to grow fast, they designed him to die fast so he couldn't survive in the wild. He was disposable. A black SUV tore down the logging road, kicking up dust. It screeched to a halt 20 yards away. Julian stepped out. He looked tired. He had a bandage over his eye where I'd pepper sprayed him. He was holding a pistol. Enough, Julian said. It's over, Jennifer. The specimen is expiring. Look at him. I stood up, blocking Ghost with my body. He's not a specimen. He's my dog's son. Julian laughed. A cold, dry sound. He's a biological impossible. And he's property of Helix Dynamics. You killed Strawberry. I used a tool. Just like you use a hammer. He raised the gun. Step aside. We need to dissect the brain before necrosis sets in.
No.
Julian cocked the hammer. I'm not asking. I closed my eyes, waiting for the bang. It didn't come. Instead, a blur of black and white flew past me. Ghost had mustered one last burst of energy. He didn't run like a man this time. He ran on all fours, a terrifying beast of muscle and rage. Julian fired.
Bang. Bang.
Ghost flinched but didn't stop. He hit Julian with the force of a freight train. They went down in a tangle of limbs. I heard a crunch, a scream, and then silence. I ran to them. Julian was lying at an unnatural angle, his neck broken.
Dead.
Ghost had crawled a few feet away. He was lying on his side, breathing shallowly. 2 bullet holes in his chest were bubbling pink froth. Ghost. I fell to my knees.
He looked at me.
His human blue eyes were fading, losing their terrifying intelligence, returning to something simpler. He licked my hand. His tongue was rough, just like Strawberry's. Good boy, he rasped. I sobbed, stroking his strange, patchy head.
Yes.
You're the best boy. The very best. He let out a long sigh. The tension left his body. His hand, that scary human hand, relaxed in mine. He was gone. I buried him next to a river, deep in the woods where no one would find him. I buried him deep. I didn't go to the police. I didn't go to the news. I knew how the world worked now. Money could silence anything. Helix Dynamics would just claim I was crazy, or worse, they'd make me disappear. But I didn't let it go. I moved to a different city. I cut my hair. I changed my name. I got a job at a cleaning service. We clean office buildings at night. Specifically, biotech firms. It's amazing what people leave on their desks. Passwords.
Keycards.
Prototypes. I have a flash drive now. It contains gigabytes of data from Helix. Emails, genetic maps, videos of the farms. I'm not going to release it all at once. I'm leaking it bit by bit, to journalists, to hackers, to rivals. I'm watching their stock price tank. I'm watching their executives get indicted one by one. I don't have a dog anymore. I can't. But sometimes, when I'm walking home at night, I see shadows in the alleyways. I see stray dogs that look a little too intelligent, a little too human in the eyes. And I wonder if Ghost was really the only one. I grip the pepper spray in my pocket. But this time, it's not for the dogs. It's for the men in the Nike jackets. I know they're watching, but so am I.